Welcome to Adult ypww Lesson 9. I do not own the rights to this music. Today's lesson text is coming out of 1 Samuel chapter 30, verses 8 through 10. Today's topic is do something. 1 Samuel chapter 30, verses 8 through 10. And David inquired at the Lord, saying, Shall I pursue after this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, Pursue. For thou shalt surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. So David went, he and the 600 men that were with him, and came to the brook Besor, where those that were left behind stayed. But David pursued, he and 400 men, for 200 abode behind, which were so faint that they could not go over the brook Besor. The aim of this lesson is to stress the importance of doing what the Lord tells you to do to overcome discouragement. The memory verse, I will read the King James Version first, and then the New International Version of Luke chapter 6, verse 46. And why call ye me Lord, Lord, and do not the things which I say? The New International Version of Luke chapter 6, verse 46. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? The introduction says, when David was distressed or discouraged, he didn't know what to do at first. All he could do was cry, but then he could not cry anymore. That's when he encouraged himself in the Lord. After that, he put on priestly garments and inquired of the Lord. He was blessed to get a sense of direction. The Lord told him to pursue, overtake, and recover all. This is exactly what David did. There was no questioning the Lord. He simply obeyed what the Lord told him to do. This is in stark contrast to some believers today. There are those who pray and seek the Lord, but they don't always do what the Lord tells them to do. This is why Jesus raises the question in Luke chapter 6, verse 46. Why call ye me Lord, Lord, and do not the things which I say? The discussion says, let's take a closer look at David doing what the Lord told him to do. 1 Samuel chapter 30, verses 17 through 19. And David smote them from the twilight even unto the evening of the next day, and there escaped not a man of them, save 400 young men, which rode upon camels and fled. And David recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away, and David rescued his 2 wives, and there was nothing lacking to them, neither small nor great, neither sons nor daughters, neither spoiled nor anything that they had taken to them. David recovered all. Wow, what a tremendous turn of events. What a tremendous outcome. The odds were against David. He was outnumbered. He only had 400 men. The Bible does not tell us how many soldiers the Amalekites had, but it does say that 400 of them got away. So they had to have more than that. Yet David and his 400 men defeated them. This happened after David prayed, which goes to show you the power of prayer. It shows you the power of acting on prayer, or acting as if God has heard and answered your prayer. David literally pursued, overtook, and recovered all. The application says, think about it for a moment. Do you act on your prayers? Mark chapter 11, verse 24 says, Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. Do you believe when you pray? Do you continue believing after you pray? If so, what do you do? This is key because faith without works is dead, and that's James chapter 2, verse 20. Faith without corresponding actions is dead. If you pray and believe, you must act like it. You must do something. Think about the 4 starving lepers in 2 Kings chapter 7, verses 3 through 8. They asked the question, "Why sit we here until we die?" They were not going to sit still and do nothing. They were determined to get up and do something about their situation. They stepped out by faith and headed towards the enemy's camp. To make a long story short, the Lord amplified the sound of their feet, causing the Syrian army to think they were outnumbered. So they fled, leaving all their possessions behind, including food for the lepers to eat. You can pray, but then you must act like God heard and answered your prayer. You must step out in faith. You must not sit still and die. You must get up and get going. Get moving in the direction of the thing that opposes you. Face your fears. Face your giants. Face your discouragement. Be determined to confront it and conquer it, and you will. The lesson illustration: Naaman had it all. He was the captain or commander of the Syrian army. He was a great man. He was honorable. He was a mighty man of valor. But he had a problem. He was a leper. There was a servant girl who told him about Elisha the prophet and his ability to heal. Naaman went to his house expecting him to come out, wave his hands, call on the name of the Lord, and heal him. But instead, the man of God told him to go dip in the Jordan River 7 times. Naaman got discouraged and left in a rage. His officers went to him and offered some sound words of advice. They knew Naaman wanted Elisha to do something, but they encouraged him to do something. They encouraged him to do what the man of God told him to do. When he did, he was miraculously cured of his leprosy. And that's 2 Kings chapter 5, verses 1 through 5. The questions for today's lesson. And you can search the scriptures on your own. Question 1. Why don't people always do what they hear the Lord tell them to do? Question 2. What happened when David did what the Lord told him to do? What can you expect to happen when you do what the Lord tells you to do? Read Job chapter 36, verses 11 through 12. Number 3. What would have happened if the lepers in 2 Kings chapter 7, verses 3 through 8 had done nothing? What lessons can we learn from this? Question 4. What, if any, similarities do you see between the story of the lepers in 2 Kings chapter 7 and Naaman the leper? How would you encourage somebody who was upset with the pastor or prophet and something they said under the inspiration of the Holy Ghost? The end. God bless you, and thank you for joining me today.